lions. And God would have never got the glory. And the story would be missing from the scriptures. That sometimes in your life, you feel like you're surrounded by lions. And that's not unscriptural, for the word says in Peter that Satan goes forth as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. You might as well get some bumper stickers printed. Stop sin, shoot sinners. Like it or not, we need the enemy. Your best friend isn't going to crucify you. The enemy will. And that's what Jesus is looking for, people whose will, whose me first and all that's been crucified in their life. He's the instrument, like it or not, and this is scriptural, that God uses to buff us and shine us and make us what he wants us to be. How many of you have faith? Oh, don't be ashamed if you have faith in God. Raise your hand. How many of you like it when your faith is put on trial? Well, then how do you know that you really have faith? If the preacher's preaching about how God promised to provide for us, he says, see the sparrows, I take care of them. See the lily of the field, I take care of that. I'll take care of you. Just put me first in your life. Anybody say, amen, yes. And then one day you get a layoff slip. Now your faith is on trial. You following me? How many of you would buy a hybrid car right now? I was reading an interesting article the other day about a man that drove from Boston to Washington, D.C., and got stranded 3 times because the batteries died. It's a totally electric car. And I said to myself, Robert, it'll be a long time before you buy a car that runs on batteries. It doesn't have some backup system. They're not proven yet. If you go buy one, you're going to help improve it. Do you love me more than these? Lord, you know. Yeah, but you don't. God didn't have to test Abraham when he asked for Isaac to find out what Abraham would do. He knew it because he's God. If he didn't know that, how can he be God? So when he asked, Abraham went like this. Abraham, take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, proving that God didn't recognize Ishmael because Ishmael was of the flesh, and God does not recognize anything that our flesh accomplishes. That's us. Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, and take him to the mountain I'm going to show you and offer him up to me. Now, God knew what Abraham was going to do, but did Abraham know? Sometimes God allows tests in our life to bring it out of us. We think we couldn't possibly love him any more than we do, so he puts us to the test. How many of you remember a program called Bonanza? Remember that? How many of you remember Hoss Cartwright? Great, big, ugly-looking guy. Well, I thought I was doing really great with love. Happened up in Evansburg, Pennsylvania, where I was pastoring. And the reason I knew I was doing pretty good in love, because a bunch of Methodists start coming to our Sunday night service. And I loved them. They were nice people. I thought, boy, I'm doing pretty good. Assembly of God preacher, loving Methodists. I'm making strides. And then one Sunday morning In walked Hoss Cartwright. Dead ringer for him. When I tell you they could pass for twins, I mean that. He sat second row back. And this was the beginning of the Lord showing me I didn't have as much love as I thought I had. He would work getting his Bible on the edge of the pew in front of him till it just balanced. And then he'd go to sleep. Now, I'm up front trying to preach, and every once in a while, he'd put the eye on me. Back to sleep. That was the beginning. I can't even tell you some of the things that he did. Unbelievable. And I had a hard time. There were times that I'd like to choke him. Pastor, didn't you ever want to choke anybody? You don't have to play games here. You can be honest. That's the only way God can help you is when you're honest and go to him and say, Lord, I don't want to choke people. Instead of going to him and say, I'm doing pretty good loving people, aren't I? I love the Methodists. Well, slow but surely, test after test, I began to understand this man and why he was the way he was. And when I left Evansburg, nobody cried harder than me and Jack. He literally lifted me off the floor. He was a big man and held me like this, right against his Jesus Saves pin that was been on that jacket so long it was rusted in place. It was hard to leave Jack because God taught me how to love the unlovable. So, Peter, this is a test. Now, you say you love me, but you've gone fishing. So he asked him again. Second time, verse 16, Simon, son of Jonas. He wanted to make sure he got the right guy. Everybody knew who he was talking to. Do you love me? Yeah, Lord. You know I love you. Then feed my sheep. Here's a job you've got to do. How can you say you love Jesus and not discover what he wants of your life? We sing a little chorus here. Sing it often, usually every Sunday morning. I was born to be his dwelling place, a home for the presence of the Lord. So let my life now be separated unto thee, so I can be what I was born to be. Do you ever take time to say, God, why am I here on this earth? Why do you have me here or there? Why? Why did all this happen? Is your life just a series of blunders? You live all the time wishing you could go back and redo this and straighten that out and make a different decision there, and that's life? Why did the Lord call you into his kingdom, into his family? Why did he make you part of the family of God? Because there's something that only you can do. Church isn't about what can I get. That upsets me today. The attitude of so many people running all over the country to see what they can get. What can you give? What can you give? We have a benevolence fund in this church, and we've helped a lot of people. For the size of this congregation, and probably half of them are missing this morning, getting a last-minute vacation before school starts, but that's beside the point. It'll be something brand new if this ever happens. That somebody comes and asks for help, And when the church agrees to help them, they say, what can I do for the church? I'll fall over into a dead faint. I'm serious. Why don't you board members say amen? Thank you. What can I do? Is it all just going this way? It has to flow. I don't mind helping people. I love to help people. I'll tell you an amazing story. You need to know this. It's your benevolence fund. This church isn't a one-man show. We're a family. God spoke to my heart about helping a man that used to attend this church the other week. And we took up an offering. His wife was dying. For the benevolence fund, he got $600 that we gave them. Well, they don't agree with what we teach. That doesn't matter. They needed help. Shortly afterwards, she died. And the Lord spoke to my heart that we should offer to have a luncheon. You know how funerals are for the people that attend the funeral. Because with my understanding that he wasn't going to church anywhere. That's what I understood. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Well, long story short, the luncheon turned into a dinner. I read the obituary in the paper, and it said they're having a dinner. It was strange. The whole thing was strange, the way it happened, but going to have a dinner catered by the Bible Fellowship. I said, dinner? There's this much difference between lunch and dinner in my mind. Well, what are you going to do? We got the caterer and had a dinner. By the time it was all over, this church, Benevolence Fund, put close to $1,700, not for the dinner. Don't misunderstand. I'm talking about the check we gave them and the dinner. About $1,700. And I sat in my little office at home, Yvonne and I talked about it. And I said, man, this is way beyond what I expected. She said, we're doing it for Jesus, aren't we? I said, yep. Who do you think preaches to the preacher? Some of you would like to, but you can't live with me. Last Sunday, there was an envelope, and I've never told anybody what I just told you. There's an envelope in the offering plate that said benevolence on it. And inside that envelope was $2,500. I sat there and tears started. I said, Lord, you know, you're faithful. You're faithful.